There is a man named Byung-soo who, due to forgetting the way home, gets lost and is taken to the police station. Someone comes to pick him up. It is his daughter, Yoon-hee. When Yoon-hee arrives, Byung-soo's memory returns. It turns out Byung-soo suffers from dementia, which impairs his brain function and memory. His memories can come and go in an instant. This condition is the result of a car accident in the past. One day there is news about a murder case. Byung-soo is very anxious and runs to check his shoes. It turns out his shoes are clean, meaning he is not the suspect in the murder. Shortly after, as Eun-hee is about to leave, Byung-soo warns her that there is a murder case ongoing and advises her to be careful. Byung-soo always keeps notes of his daily life on his laptop to preserve his memory. Suddenly, he recalls a past event where his father spilled sauce on his favorite white shoes. His father was an alcoholic who often abused his wife and children. Fed up with his father's behavior, Byung-soo, in a fit of anger, eliminated him. Byung-soo buried his father, and no one ever caught him. The house became peaceful again, and he realized that such killings should be done in the world. Over time, he continued committing murders, which he referred to as cleansing people he deemed evil. Most of his victims were buried in his bamboo forest land. His last murder was of a woman. After burying her, he had a car accident. He grew older and continued his life as a veterinarian. He also became accustomed to recording his voice on a recorder so he could play it back to remember things when he forgot. Every week he attended poetry class as therapy for his dementia. Byung-soo was often silent because his dementia made his responses very slow. He was suddenly approached by his classmate, Yeonju. Yeonju was deeply touched by the poem Byung-soo had written and continued to approach him, but Byung-soo always avoided her. On another day, Byung-soo accidentally hit a car that was stopped in front of him. Blood appeared to be coming from the back of the car, and Byung-soo took a sample of it. The car owner, Min Tae-ju, asked Byung-soo to forget the accident. Tae-ju then left. After that, Byung-soo conducted a blood test and discovered that the blood was human. Byung-soo called the police to report his finding. Meanwhile, the police were surrounding a house used for illegal gambling. One of the gamblers who tried to escape was confronted by Tae-ju, who turned out to be a police officer. Tae-ju intended to take the woman to the police station, but she resisted, slapped Tae-ju, and then ran away. The woman pleaded to be released because she had a child, but Tae-ju violently killed her. When Tae-ju was a child, if Tae-ju misbehaved, his father forced him to stand naked outside while being handcuffed, despite his pleas. His father only said, "Sinners deserve punishment." The police received a report from Byung-soo, but the officers dismissed Byung-soo's report about Tae-ju as a joke. Later, Tae-ju called Byung-soo to say that, after investigation, the contents of the luggage were deer, not a human body. Doubtful, Byung-soo went to the crime scene and used his killer instincts to find where the body might have been disposed of. He discovered that the body was at a reservoir near the accident site. The next day, the case investigation was carried out based on Byung-soo's report. Tae-ju decided to start approaching Byung-soo. He accidentally met Yoon-hee and learned that she was Byung-soo's daughter. Elsewhere, Byung-soo met his acquaintance, a police officer named An Byung, to ask for help in finding the owner of the car that had hit him. Yoon-hee was on her way home when Tae-ju passed by and gave her a ride. Byung-soo, worried about Yoon-hee not returning home, waited for her in front of the house. In the moment his daughter returned, his illness relapsed, and he even tried to kill her, but fortunately he came back to his senses. Aware that his dementia frequently flares up, Byung-soo began to doubt himself and suspected that the previous murders might have been his doing. One day, Byung-soo went to a monastery to meet his sister. Byung-soo asked if they accepted men there because he didn't want to trouble Yoon-hee. When Byung-soo was about to leave, his sister asked him to forget about the incident with their father. After poetry class, Yeonju insisted on joining Byung-soo in his car. During the trip, Byung-soo saw Yoon-hee and Tae-ju. Byung-soo's dementia flared up, and Tae-ju introduced himself as Yoon-hee's boyfriend and a police officer. Byung-soo felt he had seen Tae-ju before, but couldn't recall. Then Yeonju pulled Byung-soo away. In the middle of the road, Byung-soo, who could not remember who the woman with him was, dropped Yeonju off on the road. Yoon-hee was on a date with Tae-ju, and Tae-ju mentioned that he had met Yoon-hee's father during the accident he experienced. He thought that Yoon-hee's father had forgotten about the incident. Then, Tae-ju received information from Yoon-hee about her father, who suffers from dementia and has purchased land planted with bamboo. Because of this, he often goes there and sometimes gets lost. Not long after, Byung-soo played his recorder and realized that Tae-ju was very dangerous, because he was the perpetrator of the 2 recent murder cases. Byung-soo then called Yoon-hee, who was at the cinema at that time. Byung-soo followed her to the cinema and almost found Yoon-hee, but his dementia flared up. When his memory returned, he panicked and went back home to search for Yoon-hee. Byung-soo then reminded Yoon-hee that Tae-ju was a murderer, but Yoon-hee thought her father was mistaken, because the murder at the reservoir near the bamboo forest indicated that his shoes should not be muddy. The next day, Byung-soo met An-byong to request help investigating the blood sample he had taken from Tae-ju's car trunk. The blood test results were expected to be ready in a week. When Byung-soo went to pick up Yoon-hee from work, she was with Tae-ju. Byung-soo immediately told his daughter to get into the car and warned Tae-ju not to approach her. Byung-soo then asked Yoon-hee not to meet Tae-ju for the next week. Byung-soo began to stalk Tae-ju. Tae-ju realized he was being followed. When he came to his senses, he was already on the porch, welcoming Tae-ju as a guest. Tae-ju said he planned to propose to Yoon-hee, and Byung-soo, who had forgotten, welcomed the news warmly and wished them happiness. However, Tae-ju suddenly mentioned that this was not their first meeting, and that Byung-soo had previously approved their relationship. Byung-soo was shocked and realized he had never approved of their relationship, and remembered that he had threatened Tae-ju to stay away from Yoon-hee. He prepared a syringe to eliminate Tae-ju, but his actions were interrupted by Yoon-hee's appearance. Tae-ju then went home. Byung-soo, seeing the scar on Yoon-hee's neck, was angry and confronted Yoon-hee about her promise not to meet Tae-ju in a week. It turned out that the scar was actually caused by Byung-soo himself, and it was Byung-soo who had invited Tae-ju to the house. Byung-soo's memory from the past week turned out to be lost, and the blood test results had shown that the blood was just deer blood. After that, Byung-soo began to doubt his memory. Suddenly, his sister arrived and revealed his suffering. That night, when Byung-soo woke up, he was already tied up, and Tae-ju was changing the contents of his journal on the laptop. Tae-ju then used Byung-soo's phone to make a call. Tae-ju then injected Byung-soo until he lost consciousness. When Byung-soo woke up, he immediately searched for Yoon-hee and found his sister there. After waking up his daughter, he then packed Yoon-hee's belongings and left her with his sister to be cared for temporarily at the monastery. That night, Byung-soo followed Tae-ju's car from behind to a house. Byung-soo watched Tae-ju leave the house shortly afterward, and then checked the house, finding a handycam with a video of Yeonju captured by Tae-ju. Then, Byung-soo presented the evidence to capture Tae-ju. However, Byung-soo ended up being the suspect because the police had previously found calls from Yeonju to Byung-soo, and Tae-ju added that he was sure the handycam only had Byung-soo's fingerprints. Tae-ju then inquired about Yoon-hee's whereabouts, because he had been unable to contact her for 4 days. Initially, Byung-soo did not want to reveal Yoon-hee's location, but under pressure from An-byong, he eventually disclosed that Yoon-hee was at his sister's monastery. A shocking fact was that Byung-soo's sister had long been deceased. Byung-soo tried calling his sister to prove he was not hallucinating, but he could not find his sister's number on his phone. He fled to the monastery, only to find that the monastery he had been visiting was now abandoned, with only an old building and remnants of past food. Suddenly, his memory of the events from 17 years ago before the accident returned. The last person he killed was his wife because she was having an affair. His wife had asked him not to kill Yoon-hee because Yoon-hee was not his biological child. On his way home to see Yoon-hee, he had an accident, but continued his journey. When he met Yoon-hee, he suddenly forgot his purpose and returned to the present. Meanwhile, the police were conducting an excavation to find the victim's body in the bamboo forest. The body was Yeonju's. On the other hand, Byung-soo, frustrated, tried to commit suicide with the drugs he had, but suddenly he heard Tae-ju's voice recording on his recorder. This indicated that Byung-soo was not hallucinating. He then began to recall the day he asked Yoon-hee to go with his sister. He tried to remember the taxi license plate, which turned out to be Tae-ju's car plate number. On that day, he had left Yoon-hee with Tae-ju. He then sent the voice recording evidence to An-byong. While listening to the recording, Taeju suddenly approached him and said goodbye. An Byung followed him and arrived at a house where he found Yoon-hee. An Byung provided the location of Yoon-hee. When An Byung let his guard down, Taeju suddenly appeared behind him and attacked. Yoon-hee, who witnessed Taeju's actions, immediately fled but was quickly caught by Taeju again. Taeju explained that he became this way due to frequent abuse from his father, and that one day he wanted to eliminate his father, but was instead beaten by his mother with a steam iron from behind, leading him to hate women. Suddenly, Yoon-hee disappeared. Taeju searched outside, and while looking for Yoon-hee in the car, he was hit by a vehicle. Byung-soo entered the house and searched for Yoon-hee. After seeing Yoon-hee, his condition flared up and he was confused as to why he was there. Taeju was still alive and entered the house, asking Byung-soo, who appeared confused, to reveal Yoon-hee's hiding place. And suddenly Byung-soo was strangled with a scarf by Taeju. Yoon-hee tried to call her father, and Byung-soo regained his senses and fought back. With the last of his strength, Byung-soo fought back and managed to defeat Taeju. He also told Yoon-hee that she was not the child of a murderer, since she was not his biological child. Byung-soo was then arrested and interviewed, but due to the expiration of the statute of limitations on his serial killing case, considering his dementia, he was released. Later on TV, there was news about Taeju being a murder suspect and still a fugitive. It turned out that Byung-soo had been fabricating the story all along. He remained a serial killer who killed An Byung and Yeonju. At the end of the film, Taeju was found to have been dumped in a reservoir along with his car by Byung-soo, and the film concluded. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.